Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Not a ton to talk about in today's show, but obviously a lot of off-season stuff. It's one of the more interesting off-seasons because of the amount of decisions, and who knows, what it's going to happen. We never expected to have Jalen Ramsey on the team in the off-season, so very exciting. Dolphins have a really good young core that hopefully they can, elevate this offseason and get better. But this first news story is concerning Xavier Howard's future on the Miami Dolphins. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Xavier Howard is unlikely to accept a pay cut to stay with the Dolphins. Adam Beasley notes, obviously a long-time Dolphins beat writer. Xavier Howard signed a $90 million extension in 2022 through 2026 is how long the contract lasts. Signed another extension in 2022 worth up to $90 million. Miami would save $18.5 million this year by using the post-1 cut designation on Xavier Howard. So they would have to wait till June to even save that amount of money. So there's a lot of things going into it. The Dolphins have a lot of free agents, a lot of important free agents. They did game plan for this, obviously drafting Cam Smith. They've been trying, there's a few times, I would feel like the last 3 off seasons where we thought X was rumored to leave and he didn't. I still think X is a really good player when he was healthy. The secondary was obviously much better, especially when Jalen and X were on this, playing healthy together. Obviously, they weren't down the stretch of the year, and it really showed. The Dolphins' cornerback depth was just not good this year. And Kader Kohu, it was a huge, even at the beginning of the year, he had an awful year. As bad as I'm talking Byron Maxwell type year. It reminded me of the 2016 Dolphins. Everybody who isn't Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey at corner was just not good at all. Eli Apple had moments, but even he had equally bad moments as well. So the secondary just was and the depth was really disappointing. A lot of people were coming off injuries like Nick Needham and Brandon Jones. They really couldn't have an impact on the season as much as you would like because of that. And it showed. Kader Kohu, biggest disappointment in a long time. He was very disappointing. So it's going to be interesting to see how and the fact that Cam Smith and everything that I just said didn't get on the field is even weirder. Them drafting him and obviously draft. And you know what? Cam Smith was one of my favorite players in the draft. We saw some of it in preseason, but the fact that he still couldn't get on the field is so strange. It's a very weird situation in the secondary. But there's a lot of other ways the Dolphins can save cap. There's a lot of other, Cedric Wilson comes to mind. I believe, maybe his contract is up. Or maybe he has 1 year left. I can't remember about Cedric, but I know Emmanuel Ogbah, they could save a ton of cap space there. They could obviously restructure a lot of deals. Jerome Baker is another one that comes to mind. They could trade X, and maybe somebody would take on his salary is another option. He's still a really good player. I'm sure there's a lot of teams in the NFL that would make a trade for him, and they could get some pieces back for him. Maybe not a lot, but something half decent. So there's definitely things that they can do, but the secondary is concerning, and the depth of it is concerning. It's unfortunate that Kader Kohu, like I said, really just took a huge step back to the point where I think they should replace him. And then Cam Smith, who has a ton of potential, and maybe they wanted to sit him a year for whatever reason. We're going to find out this offseason, that's for sure. The good thing is about Cam Smith, showed a ton of potential and a ton of upside. He showed flashes in the preseason. He had some lowlights in the preseason as well. But you can see what they saw in him, how he fits the scheme, which you kind of have to be a versatile corner. And I like what I saw from Cam, in preseason. He did give up a touchdown against Jacksonville, but it was zero coverage, and he kind of got, he's a very opportunistic corner, and it would have been nice to see him get reps this in his rookie season, but he does have a lot of talent, so and he never looked. They say like Igbenogany's a great example of this. He never looked the part. He never ever at any point in his career looked like he was going to develop into something, because he just looked so stiff. He couldn't really move that well. He had terrible. I mean, obviously, if you can't move that well, you have terrible coverage skills, whether it was zone or man. And he just never moved like a corner. And Cam is not that way. Cam has you can tell that he can become a pretty good corner in the NFL if everything goes well. So maybe they move on from X in some way that saves them cap, and hopefully early on in the offseason, if that's what they decide, I hope they keep him. Like I said, if those two are healthy, it's pretty special. And when they were healthy together, it was pretty special. But again, maybe they saw enough in Cam Smith's development, even though he didn't get on the field at all, that they feel a little bit more comfortable. Because again, any way we can save money to keep the front seven together, I think is more important. Those pass rushers were amazing all year. I mean, they said they had the most sacks of any Dolphins defense in the history of the franchise. So that to me is important. Maybe you go a little bit younger. They have to replace that slot corner position because it's very important to the defense. And I feel like they have to replace the slot corner position and the safety position next to Holland. I just think those two positions were just lackluster, in my opinion. And Deshaun Elliott's a whole nother can of worms. So he a lot of like, oh, this guy, if you go back and watch, especially the end of the year, or even when Holland was out, like he was awful. Even when Holland was playing, he was awful. So they have a lot of decisions they have to make in the secondary. But I think you got to keep what's great about that side of the ball, and that's the defensive line. So whatever it takes to, hopefully keep those guys together. If that means getting rid of X, and like we just pointed out, they do have a game plan behind it. It is frustrating looking back on this. He's like, how does Cam not at least get playing time? So these are the free agents, Miami Dolphins. We're going to go through all of these really quick. So these are all the Dolphins free agents of the 2024 offseason. Running back, Savon Ahmed. There's probably... obviously, if he never got hurt, that would have been clutch. Because Jeff Wilson I swear to God, Jeff Wilson is not good. And God bless him. He's not he does the little details well. Pass protection, he's okay in the passing game, but other than that, he just doesn't fit the scheme. Like we had to run a completely different style when he was in the game, and we were more of an edge football team. We were more a space run team and edge run team. We didn't really run all that well inside the tackles as much as we did on the outside, which really kind of hurt us at the end of the year, and that's something we're going to have to get better at, especially when Connor and Hunt got hurt. That fell off a dang cliff. So anytime Jeff Wilson had to come in and, other than the Dallas game, it just wasn't what we did well, and it was a massive drop-off. So Ahmed and Jeff Wilson, don't think we're going to be back next year. I hope they go younger or just have Chris Brooks just do it. Tight end, Tyler Kroft is the only tight end free agent, which is interesting. And Julian Hill, God bless him, as a rookie, actually showed traits that he could be a solid starter in the NFL. And he got a lot of playing time all year. And he did get open sometimes when he had his opportunities in the passing game. So maybe he can kind of take a bigger step in year two. I hope that room is improved. The good news is the Dolphins have the 21st overall pick. And I really like this draft. I think this draft is really, really good. So there's a lot of things the Dolphins could do with that pick. And tight end is one of them. They could, if Brock Bowers drops, because it's such a heavy, there's a lot of quarterbacks that could be taken in the first round. There's some pretty solid pass rushers. Not even pretty solid, some really good pass rushers in this draft that I love, especially, I can't remember his name, the defensive outside linebacker of UCLA is probably my favorite player in the draft. So the Dolphins they're in striking distance of, they could go at edge rusher there. They could trade up and get someone like Brock Bowers. So tight end is going to be really interesting. They have options to upgrade it, and I hope that they do, because whether it's a third receiver or a tight end, they still need that. And they didn't improve that after year one. I thought maybe Braxton Berrios and obviously Craycraft getting hurt didn't help. I thought one of those guys would step up. They didn't. They were disappointing, and I think that's a void that they need to fix. And one of the more underrated injuries of last year was Eric Ezukama, who looked great in this offense before he ended up, I believe he hurt his spine. It was so long ago, I don't even remember. It was some weird injury. I think it was a neck injury of some kind. Ends up missing the whole year, and he looked like he was going to have a big part in the offense, especially in the running game. I don't know if he's necessarily the answer to that issue. Maybe he is. But they need to figure that out. And I think every Dolphins fan would lose it if Brock Bowers was a Dolphin. There's a lot of the good thing is they have a good pick in the draft. Here are your free agent wide receivers: Braxton Berrios, Robbie Chosen Anderson, Chase Claypool, River Craycraft, and Cedric Wilson Jr. So that answers my question. This is Cedric Wilson's last year, so he's a free agent. Every one of these guys has to go. I don't want to see Braxton. You can make an argument. Maybe he stays in as a special teams guy. He's okay at it. He's a solid, consistent returner. Maybe not necessarily like someone who's gonna. So if you guys have heard the dogs in the back, but that was really gross. But he's not gonna make a huge play in specialty. I just don't feel like he has that. He kind of lost maybe even more of a step. I don't know how you would keep Braxton or make even an argument to keep him on the team. Maybe he makes it to preseason. I don't know. I mean, that is, or do you go somewhere late in the draft maybe and get a returner? I don't know. Anyway, I don't see any of these guys were literally terrible, especially against some of those too high looks. We need somebody who can get open at the slot position, because none of these guys could do it. Especially against bigger games like against the Chiefs or the Bills. We gotta have someone who can, as a third option, make plays, and none of those guys could do it. Braxton, Robbie, Chase, Craycraft, Cedric Wilson, they're just not good, and hopefully they get replaced with someone who can come in and be more of a possession, intermediate, outside, inside type of a receiver, because those guys couldn't do that. And we need someone who can dominate shorter, whether it is outside or inside in the slot, routes, and who can get open in short areas. Because there really isn't anyone who can do that on this roster in the middle of the field. And that is clearly a need of this team. And if they end up drafting someone, because this receiver draft is really good. It's someone like a Franklin from, God, what's his name? There's so many good receivers, I forget. The Oregon receiver is another player who could be a good fit. Maybe they get someone like that in round 2, because that would be a perfect guy to get who can kind of bring even more speed to the team and could do some things on special teams. So they have options. I really do love this draft. So they could get someone like that. I know a lot of people love the Texas receiver. There's someone I'm forgetting. What's his name? The receiver from Florida State. He's the big one. He would be a great fit too. Definitely more of a change of a change of not pace, but a different skill set than the other receivers on the team. Can bring that Vincent Jackson, Mike Evans kind of a receiver would help in the red zone, and could definitely move Waddle inside. Maybe he could take more of that Wes Welker type of role in the offense, and really hopefully elevate and expand what you can do in the passing game, because again, very limited. We have to do a better job of attacking outside the numbers. And again, we didn't have a possession receiver presence. We didn't have a short receiver presence. We didn't have it from the tight end position, and we certainly didn't have it from the third receiver option. Our rack at the end of the year was terrible. And honestly, all season it was. Outside of like a few plays, we couldn't get consistent yards after the catch on this team all year. And that has to come from someone who plays in the slot. And we really didn't have that. We really couldn't get, okay, someone's open at 5 yards, let's throw it to him. He gets an extra 10. That really never happened at the end of the year. And it rarely happened at all during the start of the season. A lot of the stuff was down the field, post routes. We took Tyreek Hill had some big screen plays like against the Giants, but those weren't consistent at all. They were pretty inconsistent. So again, I'm going to pound the table, get Tua someone he can throw to that has a different skill set than the other two on the roster, and hopefully that we can do that. I mean, for the love of God, clearly these guys couldn't do it. Just to recap that, because I'm sure nobody wants me to, I don't want to keep any of those guys. Braxton, Robbie, Chase Claypool, River Craycraft, or Cedric Wilson. Could care less about any single one of them. Hopefully they're not relied upon like they were this year, because again, injuries is another great example. It's like, okay, if either one of Hill or Waddle gets hurt, the drop off of talent is way too steep and it's too much. And thank God we're getting Eric to come back, but I would not be mad. And I don't think anybody at this point would actually think it is crazy to get to another weapon to throw to. I don't know. I don't think that, whether it's offensive line, receiver, I in a weird way, I hope that the first round pick is used on offense, or go get the pass rusher from UCLA, who I really, really like. I could totally see the Dolphins doing that too. Whoever it is, I hope it's a quality pick, and hopefully it's a position. But I think more and the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, maybe we really should just get someone who can come in and make plays outside of those two, and especially if one of those gets hurt. So, and again, the Dolphins could get someone in the second round who can do that as well, because I really do think the receivers pretty deep. There's a lot of really nice scheme fits out there for the team too. The Florida State receiver would be also a really nice fit. But anyway, the point is I don't want any of these guys to come back. Offensive line free agents are Jonathan Harrison, Robert Jones, he's a restricted free agent, Kendall Lamb, Connor Williams, Isaiah Wynn. Okay, this is more of a conversation. I think this is the first conversation we've had where it's like, Ahmed wanted him gone. All of those receivers we just talked about, gone. Tyler Kroft, I don't think anybody would want to keep Tyler Kroft. So Jonathan Harrison isn't really gone. I don't think we need to keep him. Robert Jones, fine. He did okay. He did what you would expect he's a fine depth piece. If they can somehow fit him in, then fit him in. Kendall Lamb would love to keep. I think Kendall Lamb got to be like the best backup tackle in the NFL. Kendall Lamb did, like, for real, who had a great offseason as well. Really, honestly, I was like, man, I wish we could find another spot for him to play on the offensive line. That's how well he played. So, especially if they bring back Teron Armstead, I would love for Kendall Lamb to come back. He was like, you could argue he could start for some teams in the NFL and he would be a better option. Definitely one of the better backup offensive linemen in the NFL. Would love to keep him. Connor Williams, would love to keep him. If he stops snapping the ball, the only thing he does bad is, and he can move the guard and still be a really good guard as well, but he's such a great scheme fit that I would love to keep him. So Connor Williams is one of, someone should earmark that. He's such a great player, and I hope that they can keep him. Isaiah Wynn, before he got hurt, he was actually playing pretty good ball. Dude, it's so unfortunate, the injuries of this dang football team. When you start running through some of these names, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. It would have been amazing. Like if this team was like, let's say 80% or even 85, it just would have been, it'd been interesting to see how far this team could have gone. Because Isaiah Wynn was actually a big loss. Same thing with Connor Williams. This was obviously more of a loss. And even Robert Hunt, losing him, just all of the gas and steam went out of the offense. So yeah, I would love to keep Isaiah Wynn. I think and maybe we could get him on a cheaper deal. But he actually played pretty good. Excuse me. So, this is the first group that I'm like, yeah, would love to keep Connor, would love to keep Kendall and Isaiah. I think all three of those players are pretty decent, pretty good, especially Connor, who I think is a great player. Defensive line. So these are your defensive line free agents: Raekwon Davis, Deshaun Hand, Christian Wilkins. Raekwon, love him to death. As his college career was and as his NFL career was just disappointing. What else can I say? He really was a block that was either moved or could not be moved. He really never made plays in the backfield. He was never really a good athlete. He never really learned to play the position at a high level. So, yeah, I don't really... he even as a nose tackle, he was underwhelming. I think the Dolphins could do better if they lost him. So I'm going to say no on Raekwon. Deshaun Hand, terrible. I don't think anybody wants to see Deshaun Hand in a Dolphins uniform anymore. Christian Wilkins, one of my all-time favorite Dolphins. I would be devastated if he left. I would be absolutely devastated. So, yes, Christian Wilkins is a 1,000% keep. Linebackers will make you laugh because most of these guys are definitely not coming back. Justin Houston, Melvin Ingram, Bruce Irvin. None of those guys I think anybody wants to see play football for the Dolphins. Calvin Munson, who cares? Andrew Van Ginkel. Also would hurt if he left. What a great player. Not just a good player, a great player that he's developed into, and I hope the Dolphins can find a way to keep him. Cornerbacks. Eli Apple, don't want to see him back. Justin Bethel, there was a video that was uploaded where it was like questioning if Justin Bethel threw on purpose because it was such a bad tackle attempt on Hardy on the punt return that lost us the AFC East Championship. That it was, if you guys go back and watch, there is an argument that could be made. Like, it was so bad effort that maybe he did have some kind of gambling debt. So yeah, Justin Bethel, get out, dude. Elijah Campbell really doesn't matter to me. If he stays or leaves. Nick Needham, probably time to move on unless he can heal and maybe he can take the Kader Kohu role from him because we need somebody to take it from him. Because good Lord, I've never seen a corner he's up there with some of the worst corners in Dolphins history. That's how bad that season was. We were stabbed in the back as fans. We had so much faith in Kader, and man, safeties Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones are your free agents for the team. You guys already know how I feel about Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott made our red zone defense as bad as it was. So many times teams threw at Deshaun Elliott in the red zone. So many times Deshaun Elliott blew coverages. Many different times he blew coverages throughout the entire season. Deshaun Elliott is a bad safety and a bad defensive back. There's a reason the Detroit Lions didn't want him to come back. Brandon Jones, I don't know. I do think that his start to the year was really bad. He did not look the same. He looked worse. And I think as the year went on, he looked better. So, the New England game is a great example. He moved a lot better. So, I think Brandon Jones we could keep on a good deal, and I wouldn't mind it. I think he still has good football in front of him. Special teams, the only free agent is Jake Bailey, punter. And this is an area the Dolphins have to get better as well as special teams. I could care less. Like, if Jake Bailey gets kicked to the curb, fine. Maybe we could draft someone. We haven't had a young punter in many years, and maybe it's time we do that because we've had some bad, very inconsistent special teams play at the punter position. And Jake Bailey continued that. All in all, those were your free agents. It's actually not as bad as I thought. There's not a lot. I think there's two. And if you read an Omar Kelly article, it sounds like this team is like in like death's doorstep. Most of these guys, like who on this list other than Christian Wilkins and Van Ginkel, is actually important. Like for real, like the entire receiver free agency class is terrible. The tight ends is one person, Tyler Kroft. Running backs, one person, Ahmed. The only people on this list there's three names: Connor Williams, Christian Wilkins, and Van Ginkel. That's pretty much. This is actually nowhere near as bad as I thought. I don't know why I thought it was worse than this, but yeah, those are the only three good players on this list. Everyone else, I like. See you later. I would rather draft a third-round rookie than to see Deshaun Elliott point at people in our secondary and then shrug his shoulders like, what's going on? Like, that's what I don't want to see. And, yeah, so... And the Dolphins obviously have the power of the franchise tag. They have Tua under contract on his option. They really aren't in a bad spot. They're actually in a pretty good spot. So... And they have a really good draft pick. So, I actually, I don't know, reading this made me feel better about it. Because there really is only three people on that list that deserve a contract. And honestly, if we end up out of the offseason, obviously, I guess Hunt is Robert Hunt not a free agent? He has to be a free agent. Why isn't he on this list? That's strange. I just noticed that. I know Robert Hunt's a dang free agent. Or maybe he's not. Let me Google this before I... But yeah, the draft really excites me because the Dolphins could get like a great player at 21. And hopefully they don't mess it up. Which I don't think they will, and I hope they don't. Is Robert not a free agent? Am I crazy? Yeah, he's a free agent. I was about to say, there's no way this dude's not a free agent. Anyway, yeah, those are the four names. And again, 4 names is a lot. But, I mean, when you really start thinking about, like, who's the most important, it's not a lot. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. It's like, who do you leave? Who do you let go? I don't think you can let Van Ginkel go. Connor... I don't know. See, now we're getting into, like, weird territory. Because I do think they should solidify the offensive line. So maybe Connor Williams and Robert Hunt is more important. But Christian Wilkins has to be a Dolphin, no matter what. So maybe those are the 3 names that you keep, and you let Van Ginkel walk, unfortunately. If that's what it comes down to. Maybe the Dolphins can make some trades and free up even more cap space, but... and Jerome Baker, there's a lot of money that they can. There's a lot of money, that they can move. That I don't know. It's interesting. We're really gonna have to wait to talk about this until things actually happen because Armstead's another huge question mark. And thank God they got the Austin Jackson deal done when they did. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, though. But then you think to yourself, well, Connor and Robert are going to take more snaps than Van Ginkel. It would. So, I don't know. I feel like they have to solidify the offensive line. So I'm more in favor of keeping Connor and Hunt. in my personal opinion. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really excited for the offseason. I'm really excited for this draft. I really, really like this draft. The Dolphins have a first and second round pick that I think that could turn into something really special and really elevate the team to, and who knows, maybe they trade the first round pick for someone who can come in and be a great player for them. I don't know. But I would definitely watch a trade for X to the Houston Texans because there's a lot of connections there. The Dolphins have a lot of history with that franchise in terms of trading, obviously. Ex-Houston native, they need corner help. Dixon Singletary, I don't know, maybe something like that could happen. Could they get a piece from them? I don't know what kind of piece they could possibly get. But I don't know. A lot of different things the Dolphins could do. And we'll see what they end up doing. So maybe somehow they can swindle Tunsil out of there. I doubt it. But maybe they can package the first round pick. Who knows? You never know. You never know. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys in the next one.